Okay, I'll give you a minute.
Okay, thanks.
So we get all our audio and visual. Okay there. Did someone, who put this? Scott, did you put this on here?
Huh?
Did someone put this? It's not funny.
What is it?
I don't know.
What
I think it was a
happened?
joke. It's not funny.
When?
Did you forget the cup like I did last time?
No, I found a cup in here, but it was about 3 ounces too small.
Okay, we're back in open session. Thank you. Just to close this item number 6, commissioners, do we want to deal with this right now, push it to the agenda later? How do we want to deal with item 6 just to close out the discussion?
I'd like to work on it now. Let's see what we're doing. I mean, if we're going to work within the option window time, we have until the at least the first meeting in October.
Right,
Do
so-
we require a special meeting? We instruct
Right.
staff to look at the place.
Those are all good questions. I mean, those were questions in my mind too. What do we want to instruct staff to do for us, and when? Commissioner Brennan.
To get to, I just have a whole lot of questions for staff, which are gonna take time. And we have people
Okay.
sitting here waiting for other agenda items.
Okay.
So I really think it would be better to move that discussion to the end of the meeting.
Okay.
And then I can ask my questions and people can stay or go, whatever they wanna do.
Okay, so
May
why don't we?
may I offer an alternative?
Yes.
That each commissioner send to management what they would like to see in the new office buildings?
Mm,
And that'll eliminate all that. It'll get everybody's input, and it'll eliminate another half an hour of conversation.
So you mean, as Mr. Grinnell is preparing the document, we all just send him?
We send Mr. Grinnell an email saying, this is what I'd like to see in new
Criteria.
offices if we're not staying at the existing offices. I'd like to see X number of square feet, I'd like to see
Okay.
access, I'd like to see this, I'd like to see that.
I can't do that without asking a bunch of questions because I need answers to certain things before I could submit questions to,
Okay.
so I don't feel like I can do that yet. Although I'm not opposed to emailing the general manager with questions or suggestions or whatever. I just need to ask some questions tonight first.
So can we, what I'm hearing then is, we will continue this at the end. And right now, we'll just continue with the rest of the agenda then. Okay, so please just hold on to your questions and we will put this, where will we put this? I'm sorry.
You've heard from 2 commissioners. I haven't heard from the other 3 commissioners.
Oh, yes, okay, I'm
I
sorry.
mean, there's 5 of us, although 2 of
Sorry,
us
okay, I
might
didn't mean
think
to just roll over you all. Okay, commissioners?
I feel like we can move on. I think we made a decision, and if there's questions, we can submit them to the general manager. So I think there's a mandate now that the commission has decided that May 14th is a drop dead date, which that might be negotiable too. I mean.
October 15th.
Yeah.
October 15th is the drop dead date.
Well, see, I even have a question about that, but that's the
Okay.
question I was gonna ask.
Okay.
But I think that the lease terms ends on, I think, May 14th.
Okay.
So, but I think I can handle that in a question to the general manager.
Okay, and Commissioner Holsinger?
Well,
Sorry.
it sounds like there's 3 commissioners who want to simply defer everything, so I don't, my desire, if I had it, to discuss it now, won't result in that occurring. It seems to me that we are under the gun. I don't even know, I guess my problem is, I don't even know whether or not the option rate per square foot is favorable or market or something different. I'm relying on staff that it's reasonably favorable, and the comparison materials that he showed certainly suggest that, so I'm prepared to rely upon that, but in the context of the commission not wanting to simply exercise the option but wanting more information, that's more of a study issue, it seems to me, than anything else. And rather than simply put it on the agenda for the next Harbor Commission meeting, it seems to me it may be necessary and appropriate to hold a specially noticed meeting for a week from tonight and we may or may not get all the commissioners to attend on such short notice, but at least something where those that are able to attend and participate can come and discuss it in a properly noticed meeting, with the public having an opportunity to participate.
I could
In that
support
time-
that.
And in that time, each of us individually, as well as imposing more on staff, in an already busy schedule, can ask our questions and give our comments about what it is we're looking for, but we'd be prepared to give them guidance at the conclusion of the specially called meeting.
Okay.
Just one last thing, I
Okay,
do think
Commissioner
it's
Bennett.
important that that we make these decisions or suggestions or whatever it is we're doing, publicly. And if they're just a bunch of emails that are going to the general manager from individual commissioners, that's not a transparent process. So I think that we should be, doing business in open session regarding this issue. So that would be a suggestion. And I'm not opposed to a special meeting. I would be fine with a special meeting. I think actually that might make a lot of sense.
Is there anyone here that knows whether or not the Oyster Point Yacht Club is available on Wednesday night?
I believe it is.
So
I'm
I'm
sorry?
hearing,
I believe it is.
Well, it seems to me that if we could have a combination of both, we could have emails going to the manager, a copy of which the manager will have with him, and then we have a special meeting for next Wednesday, and he can say, these are the emails that Tucker and Holsinger and Brendan sent me, and here's the suggestions they have. And we can ferret it out then, because rather sooner than later.
That's what okay, then I'm hearing consensus that we should have a special meeting, because I agree too. So I'm hearing a consensus that we'll have a special meeting soon, and we'll determine where it is when we figure out what the schedule of the yacht club is, or wherever we want to have the meeting. And we'll have the meeting, and in the meantime, we will send information to Mr. Grinnell. We'll have that option as well, or say it publicly, either way. Two ways to get information to staff. So,
So let me make a motion. I make a motion that we notice and hold a special meeting of the Harbor Commission for the specific purpose of discussing the current lease or a possible move, and that be held at the Oyster Point Yacht Club or such other place that's determined to be available and suitable.
Oyster Point Yacht Club?
Oyster Point Yacht Club.
A public meeting?
A public meeting.
Public
Yes.
invited to that?
yes.
Of course.
That's why we're doing it as a
Yes.
motion now, and why
And that
it
would be,
noticed.
that would be September 25th,
Yes.
Okay.
And I,
7 PM?
and, well, I'd suggest we even be prepared to start at 5 o'clock so that we can get people coming
It's
directly
gonna be-
off of
it's
work.
gonna
Can
be
we
a
say
long
6
meeting.
o'clock, please? I won't be available till 6 o'clock.
Is that your motion? 25th, Oyster Point, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we'll look into that and see, make sure that,
Wow.
thank you. At 6 o'clock.
I'd like to amend that motion
Regarding,
regarding the location. I don't think that we should specify the location in the motion. I think we should find out, let
Okay.
staff find out what's available, and then,
so we have date and the time then, at least the date and the time. We've locked the 25th at 6.
My
Sorry.
motion is specific as to location too, subject to its
Oh.
availability.
Oh,
So
Okay.
I think we need to give that notice about where it's gonna be as quickly as
Okay.
possible. I think we may find out, confirm whether or not it's available or not by the conclusion of this meeting, and if it's not available,
mhm.
first of all, it's in Harbor District territory, if you will.
Okay.
Second of all, I know it's large enough to accommodate what we might reasonably expect in terms of the public to come. So it fills all the criteria. That's my motion, and it's been seconded, so I wouldn't
Okay.
accept that as an amendment unless and until I hear that it's
Okay.
not available.
Point of information, if you intend to have it on Wednesday, the 25th, I don't think I can make it at 6. It needs to be later. I'm meeting with my attorneys.
Okay, how about 7?
7 works.
Okay, 7 o'clock then.
With the permission of the second, 7 o'clock works.
Okay, 7 o'clock.
Can we get a vote?
I have a question for council. So this is, we're acting as on the continuance of agenda item number 6.
That is correct. You've already technically considered agenda item number 6, but you would
effectively be directing staff to notice and schedule a special meeting for the consideration of the identical item.
And alternatives to it.
Correct.
Commissioner Brennan, you have a question?
Can you explain the process to me, because we already voted, so now we're gonna vote a second time on this?
Different
Well,
issue.
you voted down the authorization to give the landlord the notification that you want the extension. So now you would just be revisiting that issue with the direction to staff that you also want alternatives put before you so that you can make a vote of whether or not you want to start searching for new space rather than just considering the existing space.
Is staff going to really be able to put together alternatives in such a short period of time? I just don't, I'm concerned that we're not gonna get much more accomplished a week from now, since staff has had all these months to put this agenda item together, and this is, you know, what they could provide. Like, what are we really reasonably planning to get, or what could we reasonably expect from staff in a week? Is it really gonna add value to, you know, I don't wanna have a wasted, special meeting. I wanna make sure that we're really, you know, I'm not sure our, goals for what we're gonna achieve at the special meeting are clear enough to staff, so. Yeah, sorry.
No, my understanding was this, and I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, fellow commissioners, but my understanding was that we were going to email or send to Mr. Grinnell what we want in terms of policy direction so that he will incorporate it, so that it will, right? I mean, he's not gonna be researching on his own. I mean, this is going to be policy driven from us, right? Or am I wrong here?
Well, we now have a decision not to exercise the option at this time. It doesn't mean we wouldn't vote to exercise it next week or some other time.
Right.
But right now, that's the decision now, because
Right.
there was consensus, at least by 3 commissioners, that more information was necessary, that there were questions that needed to be answered. So this gives the opportunity to ask those questions, whether of staff or third parties. Gives the opportunity for staff, to the extent they have the opportunity, to evaluate some other possible sites, to see whether or not those are a viable alternative. And then, based upon the information we have then, we can decide whether we want to revisit it again on the regularly scheduled meeting on the coast side, whether we want to make a decision to just go month to month and actively pursue some other sites that we've identified, or sites that we don't know are available now.
Okay, that's clear, that's clear.
Why can't we do this at the October 3rd meeting?
Because of the.
We might end up doing something at the October 3rd, but if we have another shot at it next week, that gets us a little bit closer to making a decision. And with this group, we need 2 shots at
And it
things.
focuses the commission, frankly, on asking the questions and getting the information we each need.
Understood.
To make a decision.
I got it and I agree. Mr. Grinnell and then Commissioner Brennan, you had your hand up.
Yes, if your intention is to send us emailed information, direction, whatever, guidance, when can we expect that?
That's a good question.
Because we're not going to do anything until we get that, because we won't know what we'll be doing.
Should be as soon as possible.
Do you think you have a suggestion of knowing what you're going to be doing?
I have a good idea. I can send you
I would
something
hope so.
tomorrow.
I would hope you do.
Huh?
I would hope you do. I mean,
Yeah.
you've heard about an hour's worth of discussion.
Yeah, I can tell you right now
Concerns
if you
about
want
size
it.
of rooms and square footage and prices.
Yeah, I can tell
Would
you
you
right now.
like to give us a deadline of when we should send you our information?
Well, I can give you by email tomorrow morning
Okay.
a list of things that we would need to know
Okay,
so that we would be able to inquire
okay.
to give you some useful information. Otherwise, we don't know what we're looking for.
So you'll give us some suggested questions?
That's
Or
fine.
should- or-
We'll
Yeah.
start.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
I will be giving you a list of items for which we need direction or guidance or whatever state of
Got it.
surety you have about it, which includes how much space per person, location, da-da-da-da-da-da. I can run down, I don't know, 6 to 12
Everything that we brought up,
items.
okay.
Give that to you, and then if you can get that back to us right away, then we can start to beat the bushes. Now, you
Good.
already have information on rental prices before you. It's part of the package.
Yeah.
We're not gonna reinvent that wheel,
No.
you see. But
And
I'm
we
just
wouldn't
trying
ask
to
you
give you a sense of the kinds of things we'd wanna have, a need to have, so we
Okay.
can give you a useful basis for a decision.
Thank you. We're clear on that. Commissioner Brennan, and then we're going to close this out with, we have the motion and, okay, Commissioner Brennan.
So, I can't support this motion because this discussion, this is a very important decision, obviously. And I think it's really critical that the location of the administrative office, given how much money is on the line, I mean, how much are we spending per year on the admin office?
About 80,000.
Okay. It's only been discussed in South San Francisco. This has not been discussed on the coast side. And
Point of information, what has not been discussed on coast side?
the admin building, potential,
It has, maybe not during your tenure, but it has.
we're talking about a lease that's up, and we're not talking about ancient history here. So what I'm talking about is, given the situation right now and the decision that's before us, we have not had this discussion on the coast side, and I think it's important to be inclusive of the coast side because so many people are impacted at Pillar Point Harbor. So I'm fine with having the discussion in South San Francisco, which we're doing, but I think we also need to have a discussion on the coast side. And so for that reason, I'm more comfortable just waiting till the October meeting. We've already done it here. I think we need to do it on the coast side. If we're gonna have a special meeting, we should do it on the coast side because we've already discussed this here and people have had an opportunity to comment. So that's my feeling about it. I think we need to remember that we are a countywide district and that we do represent 2 locations, Oyster Point Marina as well as Pillar Point Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, back to the original motion, back to the original motion, which was to check, I'm sorry, Commissioner Holsinger, please help me with your motion.
That a specially noticed and held meeting of the commission be set on Wednesday, September 25th at 7 p.m. at the Oyster Point Yacht Club, which I have confirmation is available, and assuming that they will rent it to us at the usual rate, the appropriate rate that they rent that facility at. For the purpose of further discussing this particular agenda item and with the potential to take whatever action is necessary and appropriate with regard to the administrative offices and the possible renewal or non-renewal of the, or exercise of the option for staying in the space we are or moving someplace else.
Okay, thank you. So I have the motion. Was there a second to that?
There was?
Okay, sorry. Seconded by Commissioner Tucker. So, do I need to take a roll call on this?
I would suggest so, Mr.
I'm looking at,
President. I would suggest you
okay,
take.
let's, and for me personally, I don't care where this meeting is as long as we have this meeting because it is urgent in my opinion. So I'm not wedded to any location as long as we have a location for this meeting because it is urgent. So roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
No?
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Gerlano?
No.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
No. So the motion fails. So.
Did you just say you didn't care where it was, but you voted no?
Yeah, sorry, I did.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I did. Okay, so that did not pass. So, I'm sorry, where are we now?
Number
Now that
Can we
we're-
keep going?
Sorry, where are we?
Wow.
Next item.
Okay. Okay, item number 7, event, special use permit for South San Francisco Friends of
I rise
Park.
to a point of order.
Yes.
What is our position? There is no position for our position?
We've moved on.
No, the motion that failed was that we're not having a
that issue
meeting
is over?
on.
We're
not
on
ha-
7.
And what happens to?
It can be brought up during commissioner comments, and I will bring it up, actually.
We're on 7.
So we're on 7.
We're on
yeah.
7, okay. That's progress.
That motion did not pass. Okay, event
okay.
special use permit for South San Francisco Friends of Park and Rec for Thanksgiving Fun Run, November 16, 2013. Ms. Harris, item 7.
We have a permit for a special use permit for the Thanksgiving Fun Run to be held in South San Francisco. It begins and ends at Genentech. It just runs through the harbor through the marina, between 9 and 9:30. The Friends of the Public Parks and Recreation will be setting up their own table. They're only there from about 8:45 to 9:45. They've held this event for about 25 years. In the last 10 years, they've run through the harbor on the Bay Trail. And so they are asking, because it's Friends of the Park and Recreation, they're asking for a fee waiver because it is a nonprofit organization.
Thank you, Ms. Harris, for the report and for including the special use permit document, which I love looking at every time I look at it because it's great policy. Commissioners.
I have questions when it's my turn.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead, Commissioner Brennan?
So, sounds like a great event. What would the special event permit cost be for a nonprofit if we were not waiving the fees? Just so I have an idea.
It would be $150 for the application fee and $65 for the permit fee.
So it wouldn't be, because I looked at our event policy and I thought it said $4,000 something for an athletic event.
It's not, there's different
There's
levels.
different levels of athletic events. If you look
So
at
how
the
would we,
policy.
what was the athletic event you mentioned again?
Athletic, $150 application fee and $65 per day. Or
65,
$65 for the permit fee.
uh,
If you look at the special event policy, athletic event 1 does not require traffic control, does not limit or alter public access, does not require district staff supervision, does not involve equipment, decorations, or furnishings, does not involve a start or finish celebration on district property. I think
Okay.
It meets all of those, and so therefore I'm sort of qualifying as an athletic event 1.
which is the 150.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. What is our maximum special event fee for an athletic event that's a nonprofit? Just so I have an idea of the range.
Maximum is, for a nonprofit, for an athletic event would be $4,400, and there's an asterisk on that, but if it includes water, it could be up to $4,800 more if it's water related.
Okay. So my question is, it's my understanding that when the Half Moon Bay International Marathon folks chatted with Harbor District staff, they were told that their fee, their special event fee, even though they weren't going to start or finish the race on district property, would be $9,000.
Well, their application would be $5,000, and then and I don't know who told them that, because I don't believe they were ever told any fees, as far as I know.
Point of information, Mr. President.
So we were talking about this.
Harbor Master Grindy and I, when we met with the marathon people, did not discuss fees because there was no application at the time.
Okay,
I
thank
was
you.
there as well.
Thank you.
And what was the 5,000 then?
It's an application fee for athletic event 4,
Which is for nonprofit?
which is for everybody.
Oh, so there's a 5,000 fee, but then there's the other $4,000?
Correct. Yes,
Oh, so it's 5,000 plus 4,400.
correct.
How did I miss that? Because I didn't ever see the 5,000
I don't
application.
know. Part of the special event.
Okay, so that explains where the 9,000 came from.
But I don't believe they were told, I was at that meeting as well, I don't remember that, but
Well, I was told that they were told 9,000, and I talked to one of the organizers. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Or what would you like to do with this item?
like to make a motion to approve a special use permit for South City Friends of the Park and Recreation for the Thanksgiving Fun Run to be held on November 16, 2013 with the waiver of the fee.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
I hear a motion second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Geralano,
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker,
Aye.
President Bernardo.
Aye. Motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Item number 8, Harbor Commission Meeting Protocol. Mr. Grinnell, you're up.
Yes.
Oh,
You-
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I have 2 comment cards first. Want to make sure I do this right. I have Mr. Brian Rogers and Mr. James Lee. So, Mr. Rogers?
Hi. First, I'd like to ask to make sure that I understand. This, you guys use Robert's Rules of Order, right? That's, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Have you read it recently? Because, I mean, just in general, normally there's time limits on you limit the time that the public can speak to 3 minutes, but we're not limiting commissioners' time at all, which is a little bit amazing, because I believe it's either 5 or 10 minutes is the standard limit. Normally, for any discussion to occur, you have to have a motion. Without a motion, there is no discussion. I can go down just the first 6 items tonight, and almost every one of them had discussion before a motion, and almost every one of them had one commissioner speak multiple times on the same topic. Standard rules are you get one shot to express your opinion, and yet, as the president of this commission, it's your job to facilitate these meetings. It's your job to pick up the gavel, put it down, and say, "I'm sorry, you had your turn. We're done. Move on." That's why we're here at 9:47 and we're only 7 items in, because one commissioner speaks over and over again. Every time another commissioner speaks, they get another shot. That's totally outside the rules, and it falls to one person to control these meetings. That is the sole responsibility of the president, is to facilitate and make the meeting happen. So unfortunately, this is all directed at you. You finally stood up and told somebody they were off topic and that they needed to stay on topic or stop talking. But yet, this last discussion got totally off topic onto some event that isn't even being discussed here. And yet, you let her go on. Why? I don't understand. You either haven't read the book or you aren't willing to follow it. If you follow it, these meetings will go quicker. So, if you need a copy, I can loan you mine. It's a little dog-eared because I read it on a regular basis because I have to deal with other meetings. But please start following the rules. It'll make these meetings end amazingly early. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Mr. Lee, and then Ms. Cartwright.
Good evening to the commission. I share your concerns about these meetings running long, so I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts as to how these meetings could be sped along. I noticed for the last, for item 6, it seemed like it was a surprise that the board voted no on item 6. And normally what I see in other board packets are at least an alternative, like there's a staff recommendation and there's an alternative listed. If the board votes no, then here's the alternative. I didn't see that for item 6, and so maybe if that's standard practice, as opposed to just assuming that staff recommendations will be rubber stamped, I think that would be a good practice to help save time in future meetings. Just to respond to the previous comment, I don't see a concern with bringing up prices for event use permits when an event use permit is on an agenda, so I think that was handled correctly. And I do want to mention as well that part of the reason these meetings are running long is because a lot of members of the public, including myself, I'm part of the problem, we're coming here to speak to you because we have concerns. When the board was considering taking away videotaping, a huge number of people came out to these meetings. if the board is concerned about the time frame of these meetings, I would suggest that instead of enacting reactionary measures like this proposed protocol to limit public input, the better thing to do would be to be proactive and engage with the community and make sure that their concerns are being met. We're coming to you because we have concerns and we feel they're not being met, not because we want to be here this late and keep you here this late as well. So I hope you keep that in mind, and I would sincerely ask that the board vote no against adopting this new protocol. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cartwright.
I just want to start with something positive. I have never liked you so much as I like you tonight, so thank you so much. You've just been awesome tonight. I wanted to say also that part of the reason that these meetings tend to go long too is, quite frankly, some of you just act like children. You sit here and just because one of you proposes something, the other one's like, no, I'm just not going to approve it because she voted for it or because he did it or whatever. And that's what makes things go long, is because you guys sit there and then you have to sit there and someone else has to propose something in a different way or say it a different way so that you guys can get something through because you just had to oppose the other one. And that's part of the reason it takes things so long, or because you guys have to sit there and make your snide remarks or whatever it is. And I don't know how to fix this except maybe send you to adult daycare or something so you can learn how to play nice with each other. But that's really what it starts coming down to. And while it's kind of fun for us to watch, it kind of gets tiring and we kind of get tired of watching you guys hit each other with Tonka toys. Regarding this though, that starting early, even if you started early, it's still like 9:52 and we're still not making progress. So I don't know, we're probably gonna be here at midnight again. And you can't blame us for this one. And you can't blame Sabrina for this one. You said that you wanted to make it a more efficient process. I think the more efficient process would be if you guys stopped fighting with each other. And more economical. I think more economical would be if you cut some of the fat from your budget and if you had people that actually did exactly their job and represented the commission or represented your people and the people that put you in office and did the job in a right way instead of in a wrong way and didn't represent the people. And I think that if you fired some people or got in people that wanted to represent people, that would be a more efficient process and more economical. Staff managing schedules, not that we don't trust staff. We do trust staff. We do trust staff. We do not trust the people that are at the top of the staff. And that's the problem. If we trusted you guys, all of you, that would be great, but we don't. Because we've seen the agendas in your agendas, and that's been a problem. And the agenda in you ending the videotaping and cutting out his job. We've seen the agenda that you guys have going, and we don't trust you, and we don't trust Peter Grinnell. So we don't trust you to make the schedule of the agendas, and that's a problem. So when you sit here and you want to cut our public comment, and you want to reduce it down to one time, 3 minutes, no matter what it is, no matter how many topics are on the agenda, you want to take away the cameras, you're expecting us to trust you. And the mere fact that we don't trust you is why you want to silence us. And your attempts to silence us just make us louder and louder. And I don't think that you realize that.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
for
Commissioner
purposes
Tucker.
of discussion, I would move to comply and follow the recommendations of the management as it comes to the protocol of the meetings. Items 1 through 6, with the exception of item number 2, the meetings will stay at the regular time posted in the past. And I would so move, Mr. President.
Okay, do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Tucker, seconded by Commissioner Holsinger. Questions, commissioners?
I have questions, but I don't need to go first. If someone else would like to go first, I'm fine with that.
Okay, and I am going to try to keep us on Robert's rules. It's ironic, that's my name. So, Commissioner Brennan. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I don't know where this came from, item 8, meeting protocol recommendations, because none of the commissioners asked to have this agenda item on the agenda. So clearly, this is just coming from the general manager, and I don't really see it as his job to tell the commission what types of protocols we should have. I think that for the general manager to dictate the length of public comment or to try to somehow shut that down, if that's what this is recommending, and I still haven't heard him fully explain what he's getting at here. It just something doesn't sit right with me. This seems a little awkward. I'm not really comfortable with it. As far as starting board meetings earlier goes, I mean, if somebody asked me if we started a half hour earlier, that would be okay with me. But again, why is this coming up now? Why is this on the agenda? This is taking up our time. This is, this seems like a fluffy agenda item to me, and I don't get that. Let's see, it says here, changing the ending time of the meetings to a hard stop at 10 p.m. I've seen boards that need to enact a hard stop time. I mean, that's not unusual, especially when there's hot topics and a lot of public showing up, and people have to at some point end the meeting. And maybe it's not your best hour for making important decisions at like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So I get that. What I have seen done by other boards is usually they'll say, okay, a hard stop is, 10 or 10:30 or whatever, but then we'll have the option to vote to add on another 30 minutes. And I'm thinking of one board in particular where I think their hard stop is around 10, and then they have the option to vote to add 30 minutes, plus another option to vote to add another 30 minutes if they think it's necessary. So they have two fallbacks in case there's something really urgent and pressing that has to get dealt with that just cannot be moved to the next meeting. That to me seems like it offers a little bit of flexibility. Ideally, yeah, the meeting would be over at 10. It's almost 10 o'clock right now, and we're discussing this. So, I think that's really critical that we have that flexibility. And I haven't looked at Robert's Rules of Order today, but based on my experience in going to other board meetings, including the South San Francisco City Council, what I've noticed is that typically there is a report given on an agenda item by, say, staff, in this case, usually the general manager, but not always. And after the report is given, then public comment comes, and then the board has the discussion last. That way, the public has an opportunity to hear what the report is before they comment, so that they have the benefit of the report to comment on. And then the board has the opportunity to make a motion, discussion, whatever, based on both public comment and the report. So I don't know why we don't do it that way, but if there was any protocol that we were changing, that would be the protocol that I would want to change, and I don't see that included anywhere here. So I also am a big supporter of allowing the public to make comment on every agenda item. I think that that is critical, and also having public comment for items not on the agenda at the start of the meeting, and I strongly support that.
I would just like to correct it. I don't see anything where the public can't speak on every agenda item.
I'm just restating
But you're not restating what's in this report.
I'm giving my perspective on protocol for meetings, which is the agenda item.
But you're implying that this report says only a person can only speak for 3 minutes on one item and that's it.
That's how it sounds to us.
No, that's not incorrect at all. If you read the report, it has nothing to do with that. As a matter of fact, I think what he's trying to say here, if I can paraphrase, is that when there are items that the members of the community are interested in that are placed late in the agenda, the president has the prerogative to move them up so you're not stuck till 10 o'clock at night. That's what this says. And it says nothing about limiting people from speaking.
I didn't say that it did.
No, you implied that it did by using those remarks. Why would you say something about the community not being able to speak if it wasn't in the report?
Okay,
Let's
Commissioners?
be factual about this.
Okay, Commissioners, I would like to give Mr. Grinnell an opportunity to explain this item.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And what the impetus was, and just kind of some background on what exactly is this?
Commissioner Brennan is quite correct. It originated with me. It was not emanating from the Harbor Commission itself. It is indeed part of my job, as I see it, until somebody tells me different, to, from time to time, make suggestions to the Harbor Commission, as I see it, for ways that we can collectively do our jobs more effectively and efficiently. And in that spirit, I'm bringing this forward. Basically, if you look at this and say, you know, we don't need this, that's fine. It's your decision. You know, these are thoughts that I had. Quite frankly, I heard two very good points from Commissioner Brennan just now. Number one, she referred to the idea about indeed having a hard close to a meeting, but considering adding the option for the commission to add a little more time in case. I mean, we cannot, certainly I cannot imagine situations where everything absolutely shall, unless we're in a venue where the landlord kicks us out because the caretaker has to go home and shut the lights off or something. Then you're stuck. But short of that, I think that's a useful suggestion. Maybe one of those, so you don't go on forever. But also her reminder of a practice that this commission used to engage in, but for some reason has not in recent times, which is indeed to start with a staff report, then have public comment, and then have board discussion. Frankly, I think that makes more sense. I agree with her on that one. Similarly, having public comment at the start. And just to clarify, apparently I didn't make myself clear in some of this to everyone. Indeed, I am talking about public comment. We now have a 3-minute limit. I think that stays, that's reasonable enough. For public comment for items not on the agenda, standard procedure. For other things, you know, I think it's reasonable to have, because I've seen many government bodies handling this way, 3 minutes for public comments and 5 minutes for governing board comments. And there's that. I didn't specifically put that in there. That's something I heard, and it may be indeed something you might want to consider. But I'm going to stop here by simply saying these are put forward in the spirit of suggestions to you as to whether or not some of this might be seen as making your proceedings more effective and efficient. And that's all.
Thank you. Commissioners, because I have comments too. Commissioner Holtzinger.
Yes, thank you. Clearly, it's the responsibility of the chairperson or president of any governing body, public or private, to run the meeting in an appropriate and fashion as effectively and efficiently as possible. We have, from what I've seen, a level of public interest in making comments on various matters on the agenda that is, I won't say unprecedented, but certainly more significant than in previous years. And I think it's appropriate to accommodate the public as much as possible to have an opportunity for input. Frankly, and I want to go down each of these items, but frankly, I want to make sure that the public has a chance to comment, but limiting them to 3 minutes on each item is reasonable and appropriate. I've heard it said that Robert's Rules of Order says there needs to be a motion and second for there to be any discussion, and I would agree with that as to discussion and comment, questions, debate, by the governing body, in this case by the Board of Commissioners, but not by the members of the public. I want to hear their comments first, because if we don't get a motion, we don't get a second, or we don't get it passed, we still want to know what's important to the public. And we all thought at some point, whether staff or the commission, enough to put something on an agenda, that public comment should always be welcome, whether there's a motion and second or not. So I like to hear that first. So I'd like to just go down each of these recommendations. Then hard stop at 10 o'clock. I think with some common sense, if there's some emergency or reason to dictate it, and there's a vote to go past that time, that makes perfect sense. And indeed, we've seen some conflict with public meeting space that this body has been meeting at on the coast side for some time, where going past 10 o'clock was a problem. Item number 2, consider starting meetings earlier. Frankly, I'd like to see us start at 5 o'clock. For 2 reasons. Number 1, if we have a hard stop at 10, it makes sure we have as much public comment as well as much debate on the commission as possible about any agenda items. And frankly, if we have times where there's more things that need to be discussed, it provides a little leeway in how many things go on the agenda, so we have the opportunity and room to discuss it. It also, if we start at 5 o'clock, it's nice to think we might be finished at 7 or 8 o'clock, and give staff an opportunity to go home at a more reasonable time when they're already putting in a full work week from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. The scheduling of items, I think staff has to have, that's item number 3, has to have the leeway to do that, and that's in part in consultation with the president of this body in setting the agenda. So that's just common sense and is standard and appropriate. Item 4, keeping the public comment item at the beginning of the agenda, and I think this is for public comment on things that aren't on the agenda, is very appropriate. These are the people we want to hear from first. They may have some ideas that one of us may want to suggest be on the agenda, and we can do that at some point later on in the meeting, certainly in commissioner comments. So I like that. The 5th item was chair exercising the prerogative to move something up on the agenda if there's a lot of speakers. We've had a lot of speakers on a number of items, especially the fishermen who were trying to get out on their boats by 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe even earlier, and they're out here because their livelihoods are being affected, and they're waiting until 9 or 10 o'clock to be able to talk on something. We need to be able to advance those on the agenda, so that's common sense and also common courtesy. The final thing, item number 6, president exercising the chair's prerogative to move an item up if there's special guest present. That again is common sense, and certainly I think it should be within the prerogative of the president. So it's not that we're enacting new policy and protocols, it's that we're restating a way to try and have these meetings be more efficient. Again, I think a hard stop at 10 is good. I'd like to see us start at 5 o'clock so that to the extent we continue to have lively public participation, there's an opportunity and time for all of that, as well as for all of the items on the agenda that we need to in order to conduct the business of the Harbor District. So I think this is appropriate, and I favor this as a restatement of common sense and protocol for how the meetings will be conducted, subject to the president's discretion in trying to run an efficient and appropriate meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Parvano?
Yes, in general terms, I agree with this. I'd like to go through the items and
Sure.
and say my thoughts on these. Item number 1, in terms of a hard stop at 10 o'clock, to me it doesn't matter. If the public is here, the commission has gathered, there's a meeting, I see no problem with going beyond 10 o'clock. Or even if we start earlier. I don't think there should be a drop dead time in terms of in the meeting, because the agenda, all the agenda items that we have not discussed will be added on to further and scheduled for further agendas. I could go either way on item number 2, is about meeting earlier. I could go either way on item number 3 in terms of scheduling agenda items from staff. On 4, I'm definitely in favor of keeping a public comment as it is currently formatted in our agenda at the beginning of the meeting, and only at the beginning of the meeting. And items 5 and 6, I agree with that in terms of, and this can be done ahead of time by the general manager, that if there's agenda items where there are going to be a lot of people speaking, or special people that have other time constraints, that should be at the beginning, of the agenda. Other than that, I really don't have any problem with this. I'll go along with the fellow commissioners in terms of, whatever they feel would be comfortable to make the meeting agenda more open.
I am going to also make my comments now that everyone's had an opportunity to speak on this, and I'm hearing different things, some agreements, but some sort of differences, and I'm going to raise one of those right now. I would compromise to a 6 o'clock start. I don't know about a 5 o'clock, but I would compromise on a 6 o'clock. Some other things where I do agree, hard stop at 10. Other bodies do it, some other county bodies, I believe that there's a county body that has a hard stop at 10, and what happens is items that are not finished that night automatically go to the next agenda. So it just rolls over so that, so that's how that's handled. In terms of speaking order, I'm fine with the way South San Francisco does it. I'm fine with the way we do it now, as long as there is an opportunity for the public, for staff, and for commissioners to speak. I'm not really wedded to whatever order it is. And items not on the agenda, whether they're at the beginning or at the end, I don't really care, as long as we always have a place where people could speak on any item that's not on the agenda. I'm fine with that. And, you know, I just want to, in closing, just say that I do take responsibility for the way the meetings are run, because I am the president. And I'm not going to make any excuses. It's been a while since I've served on the Planning Commission and have brushed up on Robert's Rules of Order. And so I'm going to continue to do better at running these meetings and hopefully not having them go past midnight, and actually make them be more efficient. So, having said that, I'm hearing different things. So what, where are we?
Can I make
Do
a
have
motion?
No, there's a motion on the floor. Mr. President, I will, with the permission of my second, amend my motion to include item number 2, which I heretofore had scratched out, and have the meeting start at 6 p.m. I was concerned primarily, to be honest with you, about your getting here on time, because I know you work across the bay. But if you feel comfortable with the 6 p.m., then I will amend my motion with the permission of my second to include all the items, including number 2, which starts at 6 p.m.
I'd accept the modification.
And then I would call for the question on the motion.
Okay, the question's been called. So according to Robert's rules, we're going to take that vote. So I hear a motion and a second, and the amendment is number 2, make the meetings at 6 p.m. Okay, so roll call, please.
Commissioner Brenner?
No?
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Parravano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. So motion passes. Item 8. So we are now at item 9. Suspension of hiring freeze and authorize general manager to fill the impending vacancy of the Deputy Harbor Master classification. Ms. Harris.
We have recently received a letter of retirement from one of our deputy harbor masters who's been with us for almost 25 years. And since we did recently finish the interviews, and I believe tonight we actually, or last meeting, we accepted the certified list for deputy harbor master. We would like to be able to suspend the hiring freeze and authorize the general manager to fill the vacancy that's going to become.
Okay. Sounds pretty straightforward to me. Commissioners?
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. President, not everything that we see is straightforward.
Okay.
I have a problem. Traditionally, I'm all in favor of lifting the freeze to accommodate certain things.
Okay.
But I hearken back to the 588,000 plus 11,000. Let's say, for argument's sake, 600,000 we're going to spend on the fingers. And I had no problem with that, and I gladly would vote for it again. One of the ways we save money is through a process called attrition. That's when an individual, be it he or she, leaves position, retires, quits, or whatever. We don't fill that position, and we get to inherit that money that we would have spent for that employee. This is an example of attrition. Staff asks now that we lift the freeze and be able to hire someone from a list that's been promulgated. And now the person hasn't even left yet, and we're getting ready to hire. I would suggest that we not lift the freeze and that we take the extra money for the months of October, November, December, and all the way through, and then look at this again beginning of next year, although not the fiscal year, the beginning of the calendar year.
So
And I'm going to be saying the same things about the next agenda item.
Okay, Commissioner, so what I'm hearing from you is not that we're not going to lift the freeze, but to delay it. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm hearing that we're not going to lift the freeze. It's a matter of semantics.
Okay.
Why delay that? It'd be inevitable. Maybe in 3 months we'll decide we don't want to lift the freeze. So I'm not
Okay.
talking about lifting a freeze.
Okay.
Point of
Commissioner.
information.
Yes.
Is there any risk or threat that is palpable that you can readily discern? And I direct this to Harbor Master Grindy, for search and rescue services or public safety as a result of this reduction in staff? Anything direct that you can identify as an immediate concern?
Sorry for a little bit of distraction there.
Well, that's public safety.
Yeah. As far as, we have one person who is out on medical leave presently on the Pillar Point side.
Is this a hard stop?
Sorry, what is happening? What is going on here?
I was told up there, so I was trying to turn the lights that are shining directly on you off.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Campbell used to always
Too
have that
hot.
problem. The lights get hot when they flash on you.
As commissioners, we're used to it. I'm sorry, we're used to it as commissioners.
Okay,
Keep the
to
lights on.
continue, we have one that's
Keep the
out on
lights on.
medical. There's an assumption he'll be returning in October, but yet waiting for that final process to complete to see if he will.
Could we get the lights back up? Because I can't really see here.
Oh,
Sorry. Just
Should have
Nobody will
left it
ever be
as
happy.
is, sorry.
As far as your life safety type approach, it does get tight when we have one gone and one more going, and we have various vacations, holidays, leaves, and such to cover.
And I guess part of that corollary is, are we faced with paying overtime for other existing
We
employees
will-
to
we
cover
will
that?
run
That's
in-
gonna eat up all or a significant chunk of.
There is that potential, but I did not come prepared to speak to that.
Okay, and do you see this as being a critical issue if we don't make a decision now and don't revisit it for at least this calendar year? Is there anything coming up with regard to the onset of the winter season, the fall and the winter season?
That's usually when our life safety is the highest call count, especially with the weather beacon down and other issues on the coast side. You know, I can't speak for the roll of the dice as far as how many calls we will have each year, but that is when we have the highest calls.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else?
In visiting Pillar Point Harbor specifically, it seems that the staff, the Harbor Patrol staff, is spread thin. So I'm concerned about that, and I do think that the Harbor Patrol does provide ocean rescue that we have at Oyster Point a little bit more readily, because Coast Guard is not that far away from Oyster Point. So they're able to jump in their helicopter and get out into the bay and deal with emergencies as needed. But when it comes to the coast side, it's quite a trip for the Coast Guard to make it over to Pillar Point Harbor. And I think Harbor Patrol is incredibly important for providing safety to our boaters. And that includes human-powered boats, kayakers, you know, people out on their SUPs. We've got surfers in the water. Our Harbor Patrol guys have pulled off some amazing rescues, and they've saved a lot of lives. And I just want to make sure that we don't short staff ourselves and there isn't some, you know, sad outcome from that. So it concerns me to be potentially understaffed at Pillar Point Harbor particularly.
I have a question to ask. Scott, are you finished, Commissioner? Were you finished?
Mm-hmm.
I have one question to ask, and then I have nothing else to say on the issue. Could you conceivably transfer an individual from Oyster
The
Point?
position was being transferred, and then he decided to retire.
Rather than go
From
to Pillar
Oyster to
Point.
Pillar,
Big
to help
difference
out
by
for the
the
coverage of
employees.
that person being gone.
Right, so is there another person you could transfer from
No,
Oyster Point?
Oyster is,
We've got 5, including the person that's going to be retiring, so we will only have 4 coverages. Not including the assistant harbor master and the lead maintenance specialist.
So you never had him at Pillar Point anyway? He was always at Oyster Point?
Yes.
and, all I can speak to is I would, I don't have the schedules with me to do a comparison at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brunel?
Yeah, additionally, you should be aware that the harbor worker position at Pillar Point has been vacant through a departure of that employee from the district. And so, in fact, Pillar Point has been 2 people down. The fact that it's a harbor worker still has an impact because the deputy harbor masters have to pick up slack from that position. So it was that situation that was leading to our intended transfer of the individual who is now retiring. So there's an issue there.
Thank you. Wish that could have been in the report. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay, just a couple of things. While I do, I do support the suspension of the hiring freeze, just because it certainly sounds like, you're already understaffed. It sounds like you'd even be more understaffed. But I would like to say that in the future for these types of reports, some of the things that were brought up right now should have been in the report, including schedules that I cannot see. So those things help. They help us in our decision-making process. So please, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like scolding, but for these reports, we do need that thoroughness so that we can make that informed decision. So do I hear a motion?
Point of
Yes, Mr.
information, if I
Brunel.
may, Mr. President, sorry for this. But under the circumstances, you know that there is an item 11 that concerns a compensation increase for me. I did not put it there, but it's there for your consideration tonight. Given what I consider the importance of filling this vacancy, notwithstanding Commissioner Tucker's point, which I totally agree with on most occasions about obtaining significant savings through attrition, I'm prepared to forego any increase in my compensation if the board sees fit to lift the freeze so that we can fill this position.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Let's get to that item when we get to it. Thank you for that, though. So back to this item number 9. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we suspend the hiring freeze and authorize the general manager to immediately fill the impending vacancy in deputy harbor master position.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Okay, I will second that motion. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Green?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
No.
Commissioner Pirovano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
No?
President Bernard?
Aye. So the motion passes. Okay, item number 10. Again, Ms. Harris, suspension of hiring freeze and authorization of general manager to fill an accountant position vacancy due to promotion of a former accountant to director of finance.
Right. As you know, the director of finance left at the end of May, and so we were able to appoint the former accountant into the director of finance position, which has left that accountant position vacant. And so we would like to be able, since we did just conduct the interviews and provide a certification list in which was approved tonight in the consent item, we would like to be able to hire an accountant to fill in behind the director of finance. And may not be in this report because I didn't add it, but you probably would want to know that the accounting technician at Oyster Point Marina is also vacant, and that position hopefully will be filled within the next few months. So the finance portion of the admin office is very short staffed.
Thank you. It certainly sounds like we do have a number of vacancies here at the harbor.
And the other account technician at Pillar Point Harbor will be going on maternity leave in February, or at the end of January.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Mr. President?
Yes, Commissioner Tucker.
How much do we spend monthly on the temporary employee? Is that an account temps type?
No, it's not an account temp. We're not paying account temp wages. I think it's 26 an hour.
And we pay an agency and/or the?
No, we're not paying an agency for him.
So we pay him $26 an hour?
Yes, no benefits. But we can only do that for 6 months.
And how long have we been doing?
3,
What's that?
June, July, 3.
So you would be replacing a new person, but getting rid of $26 an hour for a temporary person?
Correct. And we were paying, we would be paying less than we paid the former accountant.
Right.
Because she was at the top step. Plus the benefits are different because we have the adjustment in the PERS.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Olson?
Question, direct this to Ms. Garza?
Galarza.
Garza, yeah. Excuse me. I'd like you to simply describe, because on this last motion, we didn't have a lot of the information that was suggested might be available. And so in this situation, it's sort of the same. Can you describe for us how this current vacancy that's proposed to be filled impacts your work or the work of the people under your supervision?
Yes, the accountant position is a support position for the Director of Finance. At a time that there was no accountant filling the position and I was acting Director of Finance, which was for about 6 weeks, was all I can take. There's no way you can do 2 full-time jobs with 1 person. It just can't be done. Currently, the position is being filled. We are working hard. He puts in 80+ hours a day. You know,
I'm sorry, say that again?
Eight plus, I'm sorry, I meant
No,
80+
it's okay.
hours.
It's like,
a week.
whoa,
I'm thinking
Superman.
payroll.
Mhm.
But he is in charge of auditing all the books that come up from the marinas. So in charge of all the money, you know, bank reconciliations, payroll, everything that has to do with supporting the Director of Finance. Now, if, you know, it just can't be done. I couldn't do my job without the accountant. There's no way.
A couple of other questions, please. First of all, do you anticipate that that person would be one of the applicants or be people considered for the permanent job?
He is on the list.
Okay. And second, if we waited until the 6-month anniversary of the limit where we can use a temporary person, and we continue to use that person full-time in effect, what would be the difference in cost in the district between that and hiring someone during those 3 months and paying them the salary and benefits and so forth? What's the difference? Do we
I
get a?
can't do that math in my head, but I can tell you that since the person is not getting benefits for us, they are working at another job getting benefits, so that is not sustainable, and he would probably leave.
Before the additional 3 months was up?
Yeah, he needs to have one job and have one set of benefits, and if he has to choose, I don't know which one he'd choose, which would bring in another temp, which you have to train. And the thing about accounting is, you're talking about dealing with the district's money. You need somebody solid in there. You can't turn that position over every 3 months because you have to give access to bank accounts and your credit card information, and you just can't keep turning that level of securities over and over and over to another temp.
Makes sense.
Mr. President, I would move that we take the action recommended in this item by staff.
Thank you. I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I have some comments.
I'll second.
Okay, I hear a second. And comments, Commissioner Brennan?
So the accountant temp, I didn't realize we had a temp that was working full-time, but that makes sense, given what has to be done. Is that person like a certified account, are they CPA? What kind of qualifications are
They're
you?
a master's degree in accounting.
Okay, so that's the kind of qualifications you're looking for in that position. Okay, that helps me. And, you know, I understand that there were some issues with some accounting procedures at Oyster Point Marina in July related to some missing checks that were in a pile in a desk drawer that apparently turned up or something. Is that something that could have been avoided had we had better staff, or what?
I can't say what my predecessor should and shouldn't have done. I can tell you that, you know, I got my appointment on July 14th as the Director of Finance, and on July 22nd, I audited both facilities, pulled open drawers, went under tables and looked around, and unfortunately, that's what I found.
Okay, and how much money was in the drawer?
Yeah, I don't know, Marietta?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, maybe.
What was our number? We had,
26? Was it 26?
I think,
Ballpark.
well, about 36, 39.
Closer to 40?
It was, yeah, it was like a very high number.
40,000?
Yes.
Okay.
So
And
that, in turn, what we're having to do is for all of that money we found, we're having to find out which account to apply to. So we're doing an overall audit at Oyster Point, which really requires all members helping out.
Okay, can I, if I could just interject here,
Yeah.
I would like us to stay on topic, because I think that we are slowly veering into another topic here. So
Okay.
if we could just stick to, please, the suspension of the hiring freeze
Okay.
regarding accountant position, and then we can talk about other things in
thank you.
other agenda items. Any other questions? Okay, there was a motion and a second. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Peravano? Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. We are now at item number 11, the District General Manager's compensation increase, 2.5% pay raise. And I see here, Commissioner, this is your item, Commissioner Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. Although it's admirable that,
Oh, I'm sorry. Question, did we do?
yes, you have to do those first. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, we'll make sure we do this correctly. Sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner. We have 3 speakers, and they are in order. Mr. James Lee, Ms. Leslie Webster, and Ms. Kim McHenry.
Good evening to the commission. I just wanted to, since this is going to be my last opportunity to speak to you this evening, ask the board to quickly go over in commissioner comments at the end exactly how policy will be set to notice the public as to the change in the meeting times. That wasn't in the board packet or talked about, so if you could please do that, I would appreciate it. Onto the agenda item. I read in the Half Moon Bay Review today that there's a harassment investigation going on with regards to the general manager. And also in the Half Moon Bay Review, in one of the blog sections, this appeared, which was apparently what looks to me like a very inappropriate birthday card given to a female member of staff here by the general manager some years ago. And included on the Half Moon Bay Review was the Harbor District's legal findings as to this case, or their judgments on this case. I noticed it wasn't an independent investigation, which is what the Half Moon Bay Review said the current one is. So I'm not too knowledgeable on what's going on here, but I'm a little concerned that in light of the changes being proposed to public input into meetings, public access with regards to the loss of videotaping, and considering the fact that there's a current harassment investigation going on and previous allegations or what have you that were made, I would sincerely hope that the board at least put off considering this item until the current investigation is finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Webster, Leslie Webster.
In the interest of saving time, I was going to say everything James said, so.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Kim McHenry.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I heard the general manager say that he was going to forgo his raise a few minutes ago. Maybe I misunderstood him. I'm happy to be here and glad to know that you guys are going to get your month off, because missing 2 meetings is actually a month off. Being a commercial fisherman, our season starts November 15th, so we won't be taking any of that time off. And I suggest to you that maybe before you begin to take our money, you learn what it takes us to make our money. I would also like to say that I'm glad to get to read this into the video, because as slow as the wheels turn with this district, I'm certain that you'll find a way to get the video turned off quite rapidly. The incompetence of Mr. Peter Grinnell, not being able to settle the issue of these fishermen's fees. It's been 6 months. You have been handed nothing but the current fees as of yesterday's date up and down the coast. And I suggest that you look at those, because I understand that you feel you're not being given the appropriate and accurate rates up and down the coast. I've given you that package tonight, and I suggest that you look into it. You'll see that it's factual, and I would really like to have this issue resolved. It's been 6 months. We've been waiting for Peter. There's numerous letters back and forth, his promises, his broken promises, and the lack of your ability to look into this on your own is really despicable. And I suggest you take the information given to you tonight and look at it thoroughly, because I'm desperate for a resolution to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cartwright? Sean Cartwright.
This is the music that goes along with the cute little drawing that went with the cartoon here. And so it talks about how you can take off all your clothes, you can take off this, you can take off that, but you can leave your hat on. I'm sure you know it well. It goes along with your cute little cartoon here. Take off your coat, take off everything, leave your hat on. Yeah, baby, you should be proud. This is not the kind of displays that we want from somebody that's going to represent you, that's going to represent us, that's going to represent anybody. We don't need somebody that's going to display this kind of behavior a decade ago. And it's not just this cartoon. It's the whole book that had other naked drawings. And this report details all of them. A report that you paid for, that we paid for, that was never made public. And in this, he admits, sure, I made those naked drawings. I made this one, I made other ones, I made them of other female employees. And now here we are, over a decade later, and we have the only female on the Harbor Commission who is filing a complaint. It seems like there might be something going here with the same person, the person that never looks at us, who obviously shows no respect to the people that come up here and speak. We're the ones that vote for you. We're the ones that come and talk to you about the issues. You need to be responsible and have somebody that is responsible. They're clearly not responsible for their sexual urges. They're not responsible for their own judgment. And they're not responsible in showing any respect to the public. They don't show us any respect when we put in Public Records Act requests, because they're not met. They're forwarded to lawyers to incur, now you look at me, to incur more bills for you guys, for us to pay. It doesn't make any sense. When we go ahead and put in requests, or if you put in a request, it should just be answered. But instead, it's forwarded to attorneys to create more fees. I know how these things work. I've done it in other cities. It's really simple. You go ahead and say, hi, I'd like this request, and it's answered. It goes around in this big, huge circle here of obfuscation so that it go ahead and cost more money, because quite simply, he just doesn't want to answer us. He doesn't want to answer her, and this is what he's created. He doesn't deserve a raise. He deserves a kick in the pants right out the door. We need better representation. We need somebody who's going to represent the city with some sort of class, some sort of dignity. And quite frankly, you protecting him doesn't say much about you either, or your judgment. And I'm really sorry that you're putting your career and gonna go out protecting him. We deserve better.
Mr. President, I would make a motion that we raise the base salary of the general manager by 2.5%.
Okay, I hear a motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, I hear a second. I had some comments, but commissioners, I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak on this item, because I do have comments, but I would like to hear from the rest of my colleagues first.
I have comments.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan?
So my comments are pretty simple. I don't support a raise because I have reasons to be concerned about the general manager's ability to do his job. He's demonstrated a history of bias against women, and this continues to this day. Currently, I have a pending complaint involving bias against women, and an independent investigation is in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners? Anything else? Commissioner
I would
Holsinger.
simply suggest that as an attorney, as a member of the bar, I see this as a witch hunt. I see that as conviction by accusation. I'm distressed to see this body addressed in this fashion, to the extent that there was a complaint by a commissioner in closed session. There's a reason why those are in closed session, and I see this as a serious violation of the public trust to try and bring it out in public and get your way, frankly, Commissioner Brennan, by this kind of public lynch mob. If there were a tar and feather available, I'm sure you'd be brandishing it. I'm just simply distressed and incensed at this. This is a gentleman who has served this district well over 16 years.
Way too long.
Well over 16 years. In my dealings with him, I found him to be knowledgeable. I've not seen or heard anything to suggest that he deserves anything other than to be treated as fairly as the rest of the employees who all got the same increase with one exception, and that's the harbor master. I think by not doing this, we are sending a message to anybody that might consider working for this district in the future in a managerial capacity that this is not an appropriate or friendly place to work, and we will lose the opportunity in the future to have the best applicants possible for any management position.
Excuse me, the commissioner is speaking. Please don't interrupt.
So I am in favor of this. I think that anything other than this would be a grave mistake on behalf of this commission and this district.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? I have last words.
At the last meeting, we had approved a similar pay raise for the other managers, Department of Finance, Department of Finance, Human Resources, and the Harbor Master. And why the general manager was left out, I'm not sure. But I look at this as a continuance of that motion, of that support that we had given the other department heads. And the rest of the entire, both the Teamsters and the operating engineers, a similar raise.
Thank you. And I would like to just close out by saying, I do agree with my colleague, Commissioner Paravano. I don't look at this as a raise. I look at this also as a continuance of what we gave the unions, what we gave senior management, because for me, this is not about Mr. Grinnell's personal life or any past transgressions or any things that he may have done in the past that, you know, that he was in error of. That's not what this item is to me. Item 11 is about fairness personally, and I cannot, myself in good conscience, deny someone fair compensation that we've given other unions and other people within the district. It's just, I couldn't do it in good conscience. So I'm going to vote for this. And so I hear a motion and a second. So roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
No.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Pearvon?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Motion passes. We are now at item number 12.
Mr.
Bill-
Pres-
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, members of the commission, I have reviewed the bills and claims in the amount of $305,108.05, and I would move approval of same.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion second for bills and claims.
I have some comments.
Sure. Commissioner Brennan.
So in the past, I've brought up concerns I have about the lack of a profit and loss statement included in the board packets monthly, as well as a budget versus actual report included in the packet. Those two items should be included in our packets, and I'd like to see them included going forward. I mean, it's great to get this bills and claims statement, but we need this other information to look at to really understand this district's financial situation, and we're making decisions about spending money without all the information. So I would urge the board to consider requesting those two documents be included once a month in a packet so that we have all the information we need to make informed decisions. And I have one question about a particular item here, which is the well-connected office. I see there is a bill for $3,817.50, and I think last month it was over $4,000 or around $4,000. And I was wondering if we could find out what that amount is for specifically, and I'd also like to request the invoices.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner?
I do have questions about the missing checks, and I can save those till Commissioner's comments.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So for this item, sorry, there was a motion, I'm sorry, is there a motion for this item?
There was.
There was, and there was a second, sorry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Pearvon?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye.
Mr. President.
Bills and claims passes.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
Thank
President, I rise to a point of order.
Yes.
Earlier this evening, this commission passed a protocol that called for a hard stop at 10 p.m.
Yes.
And I would point out to the chair, it's now 10:48 p.m., and I think this meeting should be adjourned.
I would make a motion to adjourn and carry over any unfinished business as business on the agenda at the next Harbor District meeting.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, I hear a motion and a second. Discussion.
We haven't gotten to commissioners' requests, and I think that's a really important item, especially since that's the only way we can get agenda items on the future agenda. So we can't add agenda items for the next agenda without having that item. So I'm okay with ending the meeting early, but I think we need to include that item.
That's a really good point. And I would tend to agree with that one piece that we add the commissioner's comments. How do my other colleagues feel about that?
I think staff, thank you.
Commissioner
I think staff reports are much more important than commissioner comments. And part of the, frankly, I'd like to hear from staff on what they have to say on their reports, rather than, for conducting the business of the district when we're this late, we've had this much time taken. And in terms of commissioner comments, I had comments that I was going to make. I'm going to forego those. And in terms of getting anything on the agenda, we're already impacted as a result of not being able to take care of the business here tonight. So we don't need to put other items on the agenda at this time now.
Mr. President, notwithstanding the motion and second that's on the floor currently, I would rise to a point of order, and
Yes.
our Robert's Rules of Order friend has known his knowledge, as well as my own knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order. Then I rise to a point of order and ask for a ruling that we comply with our earlier protocol vote, that the meeting end at 10 o'clock.
Yes, yes, that's true. So
It's a
I
point-
will.
it's a point of order.
Yes, you're correct. You're absolutely correct. So I did hear a motion and a second, so
I withdraw my second.
I'm
To
sorry.
adjourn?
No, I withdraw my second. Point of order has precedence. I'll withdraw my second. If you'll withdraw the motion, point of order has to be voted on, ruled on by the president, and it's
I'll withdraw
obvious.
my motion.
Right. So, yes, we are going to comply with the earlier agreement,
Can I
the
comment?
vote.
Point of order, it's not a matter for debate.
Yeah.
It's over with.
It's
We'll
that's
leave the
true.
chair
But
stand.
I have a point of order. I'd like to make a point of order, please.
There is no meeting. You can't make a point of order.
We have not adjourned yet.
No, point of order rules. He made a ruling on the point of order, and his ruling was the point of order was correct, and
Yeah, we did
we are not
agree,
in
Commissioner
session.
Brennan, we did agree that at the hard stop at 10 o'clock, we did. And I'm being reminded of the, of that vote. So,
I'd like to make a point of order.
There's no meeting in attendance. We're not scheduled.
you know, so basically, we are going to adjourn. Do I hear a
We
motion
are
to
adjourned.
adjourn?
We are adjourned.
Okay. All right. Meeting adjourned and.
It didn't work, dude.